everybody, my name is Silly Billy, but you can call me Billy. Today we are doing something exciting. Disventure Camp Season 4 is by no surprise my favorite season of the cast so far. And this realization kicked in even harder as I was working on the All-Stars review script. Yes, that is still coming. Be patient for it. So I was working on the script for that video the other day, and I got really sad, and the longer I think about All-Stars, the worse it gets. So I needed a distraction. Like, I need to entertain myself in the meantime while I work on that video. And then I thought about the Season 4 cast, which is such a big improvement. So I came up with this little fun video instead. We have 10 characters left in the show, and realistically, I think all of them could take home the win. So today, I thought it would be fun to discuss how each of these 10 contestants can actually win this show if that is the intended route they're going for. Now, quick notice, you may know that I have behind the scenes information. If you didn't realize yet, I'm the voice of Trevor. Hello! So that means I know a couple of things from reading the scripts, especially from reading the eliminations, but pretty much I know up until the final 5 right now. So I don't know who is going to win, but I know a couple of the coming names that are definitely not going to win. So, the way we're going to approach this is as follows. I'm just going to do every single character alphabetically, and I'm going to discuss what the show needs to do from here on out in order to justify their win. Without discussing if a character is still in the show and how likely that scenario is, we're just gonna talk as if I only know about the episodes that have released so far. In the coming episodes, you'll realize which of these have been speculation by me, because I actually don't know, and which of these have just been loose dead ends because of funsies' sakes. Sounds good? Okay, great. So, without further ado, let's start with the first character, which is Anastasia. Anastasia has already kind of peaked in terms of storyline, so that means she needs a new direction in order to justify herself as a winner. Her Linda thing is done, she has gotten her revenge for that, so we need something else for Anastasia to do. And I think we have an important role laid away for Isabelle here. So, I think if Anastasia is supposed to be the winner, then Isabelle is supposed to be the villain, and Anastasia is the one to catch on that Isabelle is not quite as kosher as she pretends to be. But of course, the other teammates are going to shun her for this because everybody believes Isabelle to be a saint, literally and figuratively. Secretly, we know that Anastasia is in the right, but she has a track record of enforcing her ways, so to say. Anastasia's big arc for the next couple of episodes in order to justify herself as a winner is going to be to learn to accept help and not try to do everything herself. We've seen little glimpses of this here and there. Anastasia has a tendency to try to pick up everything herself and berate others, not just the men, but pretty much everybody, that they're doing a less good job at things than she is, regardless of what that thing is. And I think that is going to bite her. I think Anastasia is going to lose a couple of allies quickly. Not that she really has many allies at the moment, but I think in order for this story to work, somebody like Logan needs to be eliminated quickly. Somebody she thinks she can trust, somebody who is a muscle to her, but also is kind of friendly, I guess. And I think Anastasia needs to feel this feeling of, well, I know I'm in the right against Isabelle, but Isabelle is in the majority and I am going home if I don't act now. And that is where we have an important role for Spencer in this story as well. I think Anastasia and Spencer are going to bond in this story, and Spencer is going to be this unlikely ally to Anastasia, who she at first really wants to send home, but then as things go on, she learns to accept that some people are useful strategy-wise and not just to keep around to vote out at a later moment. And I think her and Spencer are going to bond in this way. Ultimately, Anastasia will be successful in targeting Isabelle, but I think it will not be without a showdown, and I imagine her playing her idol will cause Spencer to go home in some sort of way. But this is kind of the way that I imagine Anastasia winning Disventure Camp Season 4, with a big final battle between her and Isabelle. Going over to Benji. How is Benji going to win this season? So, Benji's arc is already kind of set up here. Benji is going to have this big villain arc with Jade, because Benji seems to be the only one to distrust Jade at the moment. And the main thing for Benji this season is that he is going to try to get others on board to vote out Jade, but he's not going to be successful in that, and that his big arc this season is that he is going to prove himself useful and earn the respect of a couple of people that haven't given it to him so far. I'm thinking people like Zade, but also people like Hannah, who don't really really realize the potential of Benji just yet, but do appreciate him as company. Like, Hannah has a tendency of this too, despite being his confidant. For this story, I imagine there will be a big role for Zade later away. So Zade is currently really mad at Benji, and at first I think he will try to target him out, but then slowly realize that Benji was in the right all along. And I imagine that this first action by Zade is by targeting Hannah. Hannah is actually going home pretty soon in this situation. And then slowly Zade is going to realize, especially when him and Benji talk a little bit, like, do you realize what you just did? You eliminated Hannah. That means the villains now have a majority in this team. If you vote me out, then what's going to happen next? And Zade is not really trustworthy of that just yet until he sees it all unfold and realizes, wait a minute, Benji might actually have a point here. And he starts to support Benji more in his role to fame here. Start to appreciate what the actual skills are that Benji brings to the table. That is the way I imagine Benji is going to win this season, ultimately triumphing over Jade and showing everybody what an actual cool bean he is. Next up, what is the arc I have in mind for Hannah? So, Hannah's going to face down a bunch of villains. Jade, Spencer, Isabelle, they're all gonna be here. Hannah, in order to justify her winning, I think she needs to embrace that fish out of water feeling, but proving that she's actually deserving to be there. Hannah is clearly struggling with this a little bit. Spencer's tried to bring her down for this too, like, you don't belong here, you were only invited because you were at a party, you haven't earned your place. And I feel like Hannah might actually start to embrace this feeling too, and then grow out of it as the season continues on. So for this story to work, I think Benji's going to go home very soon, and then Hannah is going to be like alone, and Benji is still going to prove himself right because Jade now works out Benji, and it's very clear that Hannah is supposed to go next now, and that is when she kind of hits rock bottom. She needs new people to bring her to this next section of the game, and this is where at first, Hannah and Spencer, of course, have this big villain arc together. Hannah has tried to take down Spencer a couple of times, and each time it has resulted in Spencer taking down a friend of Hannah. And, well, I don't think the same will be true for Benji, although it could definitely be true. I think Hannah and Spencer are going to work together to defeat the greater evils in the form of Jade and Isabelle. Now, I'm picturing the scenario of, like, Maggie and Negan, who bond in the later seasons of The Walking Dead, despite of events happening earlier. Maybe this analogy doesn't make sense to you, but I imagine two people who could not click together worse if they tried, still having to be forced to work together because neither really has a shot on their own. A bit like how Hannah and Benji got together in the first place. I think the same will be true for Hannah and Spencer, that they grow together a little bit. At first, like the misfits of the team, clearly going to go home soon, unless they work together now, and I think they will succeed in that, and that is the way I see Hannah winning this season. Isabelle is next. How is Isabelle going to win? Well, if Isabelle is going to win, she needs a villain to showdown with, and again, I am looking for Jade to do this. So, the way I picture this story is that Jade is going to try to expose Isabelle for her idol, and that means Isabelle lied, and everybody is going to turn on her because how can she, the devoted Christian, the holy saint that she is herself, lie on camera? She is not the person she is pretending to be, and everybody shuns her for it. Picture Lashana in Total Drama Action. In this arc, Isabelle is going to try to build herself up again. She's going to doubt about herself. Should she have lied to do this? She's been justifying it herself so far pretty easily, but now that everybody's confronting her with it, she is going to have a harder time justifying that. And this arc for Isabelle is going to prove to herself and showing to herself that she can be a devoted Christian and be an online sensation. It doesn't really matter who she is or what she wants to be, as long as she just is who she is. And that is going to be this arc for Isabelle, I think. And I do picture important roles for Natalya and Richard as potential allies in this. I do think, especially with Richard, who is quite the forgiving type, he's going to be mad at first, like he has been with Logan for a couple of times. But I do feel like he will stick out with Isabelle because he can relate to the feeling of just being yourself. In order for this to work, I imagine Spencer is going to take a big L pretty soon, because we need the focus of elimination to shift to other people. This story is not going to work as well if there's other logical people to vote out next. So I think the main big targets, maybe like your Spencer, maybe like your Anastasia, those characters need to go first in order for Jade to have a reason to try to target Isabelle out instead. Going over to Jade, how can Jade win this story instead of Isabelle? So we start out with the same premise here, that Jade is going to rat out Isabelle's idol, but this time it is more so from Jade's perspective as the hero and Isabelle as the secret's villain. So Isabelle is going to take over in popularity as the merge hits. She has good ties with both teams, so I imagine pretty much everybody's going to try to want to work with her. And Jade wants to stop this, but she knows if she is going to rat out Isabelle for her idol, then she is absolutely going to play that idol and try to pin it on Jade herstead. So Jade wins immunity in a random episode and then tries to tell about Isabelle's idol in the hopes of getting it out of the play. And that is going to make Isabelle really pissed. So here's what's gonna happen, okay? This is a pretty big twist. Isabelle refuses to play the idol instead. Jade claims that Isabelle has an immunity idol and that she's had it from the beginning, and Isabelle denies it as hard as she can. And then as the elimination goes on, the initial plan is to vote out Isabelle, but then they realize that Isabelle is shaking and she's crying and she's being super nervous about this whole elimination, giving the image that she is potentially going home because she has no safety net. And this is going to convince other people like, did you see Isabelle? She was crying. She was so nervous. She cannot possibly have this advantage because she would be so much more comfortable here. Well, joke's on them. She does have the immunity idol and it is all a big act and it works out spectacularly. So somebody else goes home instead and Isabelle gets away with it. Now having an immunity idol and a very valid reason to try to target Jade instead, who, mind you, had immunity, so there's no problem for her this episode, but that means this next stretch of the game is going to be far more difficult for her to complete, because now she's basically like the boy who cried wolf, but Isabelle is now coming for her, and the others don't believe that Isabelle is. And that is the arc I see for Jade in this latter half of the season, trying to prove that she was very much so right about Isabelle and trying to defeat her in this final stretch. I imagine important roles for Benji, who is going to be like an initial adversary to Jade, potentially get eliminated first, and I think Spencer is going to try to be the main ally of Jade, because the two of them work together really well. We've seen that so far, and Spencer just needs a reason to be safe himself as well. In order for this to work, I think Benji is going to be one of the main advocates to try to vote out Jade, especially in the earlier stage, and that means I think Hannah needs to get eliminated quickly because he needs to have a valid reason to be proven right about Jade. So maybe Hannah could be the one who goes home if Jade wins immunity and Isabelle refuses to play the idol, which gives Benji even more of a track record to go after Jade, and Isabelle absolutely working her magic on her as well. Next up, we have Logan. How is Logan going to win this season? I don't really have a solid picture for who is going to be the main villain of Logan's story, but I think Logan is going to create them themselves. Like, it could be Anastasia, it could be Isabelle, it could be Jade, it could even be Zade or Spencer, and we'll try to each pull Logan to his side, and Logan is going to have to make some tough choices, and the people he refuses to choose in that choice are going to come after him, very much so. Logan so far has been drawn along by other people's plans, and I think this will continue for a little while more, and it will upset a lot of people. It will eventually lead to the elimination of Richard as well, which is like this turning point for Logan, because once again, he listened to the words of others and not to himself, and it led to somebody else getting eliminated. It has been like the third time Logan has made this mistake now, and he is done with it. So Logan's arc for this latter half of the season is to learn to be less manipulated and draw his own plans and gathering his own people. And I think he can do this, and I think he will slowly start to amass an army of characters by his own. Like, people like Hannah and Natalya are easy people to get to his side, and I think like Anastasia might try to get persuaded at the end as well. Like, Logan and Anastasia are both heading towards his final 5, final 4, for example, and that is the point at which Anastasia realizes, like, okay, maybe Logan is now pulling the plan and I should go along in this, instead of the other way around where Anastasia is just telling Logan who to vote and what to do, and he's going to try to stand up to her, and that's when she's going to start to respect him as a strategist as well. That is Logan's plan for this season. We soldier on to Natalya, for whom I picture a villain arc with Anastasia? I know, hear me out. Okay, so Natalya so far is more of a background character than a main player, but this is going to change soon because Natalya is going to refuse Anastasia's dominance and stand up to the bossy queen herself. So the way I picture this is that this story starts more from Anastasia's perspective than it starts from Natalya. Spencer is going to be able to weasel his way back through the eyes of Anastasia. They're going to work together a little bit, which means Anastasia decided this is the time for Natalya to go out of the show. Like she has been deciding this for a couple of episodes now, like, this is the vote we're going for. Are you in? No, then you're the next on my list. And Natalya's like, girl, shut up with you and your list. I am going to pull the strings here. That is pretty much the deciding factor for what is going to get Natalya to this heroic role. And I feel like Richard and Logan are going to side with Natalya here, with Anastasia trying to amass an army of her own with people like Zade, Benji, Spencer. They're all going to try to side with her. And this is like this underdog victory for the characters that were doomed to fail because of Anastasia or chosen by Anastasia. Natalya is not going to have it, and she's going to show who's actually in charge here. That is my pitch for Natalya, and I think in order to make this work, we need to get more story focus on her. So that means dropping a few of the characters that now take up story space, that now show potential to become their own stories in their own right, so that Natalya can become the important story from here on out. So I'm picturing Jade goes out quickly so that the story can focus more on her, and I think Isabelle is going to use her idol on Natalya to save her from getting targeted by Anastasia in the first place. That is going to be like another catalyst, like, oh girl, you did not just target me. And I imagine Isabelle is going to get eliminated herself pretty soon afterwards, which is going to empower Natalya even further. Richard! How is Richard going to win this season? I think Richard, if he is going to win this season, is going to have like a similar arc to Miriam's winning, proving that all people rock and that being yourself matters. And that is kind of the vibe I'm getting for Richard for this season, and that is the thing I think he can bring to the table if he's going to win this season. For that to work, I imagine Benji's going to play a pretty important role, as Richard does see the value in Benji, or he's going to, and that is going to earn him his loyalty and advice, and that turns out that Benji's actually a pretty cool dude, and Richard's going to do some moves that nobody is predicting, because Benji just pulls things out of the air, and they magically just work, or well, magically, they work because he's pretty smart, and then Richard follows his instinct, tries to pull other people into this plan. It works out. Richard goes to the top. I imagine that. I would like that for the guy. In this story, I imagine Isabelle and Anastasia are going to play the villains together, using their power position to give Richard the minority position once again. He has pretty much always filled this role, and this is going to continue on into the merge, but he's going to have little victories here and there that allow him to keep up with the opposing side, so to say. I do think Logan is going to get eliminated quickly here, and that is going to be a result of Isabelle and Anastasia's planning together, and that means Richard is now alone, and he is going to swear vengeance, but in the Richardest way possible. So, like, it's all friendly competition to him, but he's going to try to beat the absolute crap out of them as politely as he can. That's my pitch for Richard. My pitchard. Spencer is next. I would like this character to win because I think it would be super interesting. How would we do it though? Let's see. So I think Spencer is going to show that someone can still change the errors of their ways if they commit to this new personality. I think this is going to be the arc that they want for Spencer here. And that means a villain arc for Jade, who has looked down upon Spencer for being unreliable. So at the start, they are going to work together, but then at a certain point, Jade is going to decide, like, I don't need you anymore. You're getting dangerous now. Bye-bye. And it's not gonna work because, of course, it's not. It's Spencer. But this is also where the Spencer versus Jade rivalry really starts, and that's going to be the main focus of the season here on forward. And I think Spencer and Anastasia, I've mentioned it before, I think they could be a good pairing. Spencer's going to make up to Anastasia. He's tried this before, and I think the reverse will eventually happen here too. And I think Logan is going to try to motivate Spencer for being a better person. I would love if this even extends to Hannah, who Spencer has to apologize to, and ultimately she agrees to help him in this, seeing that Jade is the worst person in this debate or something like that. I think Richard and Natalya need to get eliminated quickly if this is going to work, because I think we need to thin out the fluff characters, so to say, and I think Richard and Natalya currently fit that description the best. If we are going to make this the main focus, then we don't want this little side stuff. We want to get all in on this story and ensure the story can focus more on Spencer. And finally, Zade. How is Zade going to win this show? So Zade is gonna go on this classic revenge arc with unlikely allies, based on, well, what we've seen in the last episode with Ivy's elimination. That is going to be the main catalyst. Zade's winner arc has just started. At first, Zade is going to be still really pissed at Benji, and he's not going to be able to eliminate Benji, but he's going to be able to eliminate Hannah instead, and Benji's going to be so pissed. So far, this starts a little bit like the Benji pitch, where he is ultimately proven right, and Zade and Benji start to bond more with each other. But from this perspective, Zade is more of the main character, whereas he was a supporting character in Benji's role should he win. But now we're picturing that Benji ultimately finds a way to get through to Zade, and he realizes that he has been in the wrong, and he accepts Benji and he makes up to him, and they become best buddies for real this time. And then the villains of this story are, how could it be anybody different? Jade and Isabelle, who take control over Zade's anger at first and try to manipulate him into doing their bidding, and then he's gonna realize, like, no, wait, I'm being played, and then he's gonna try to take him down one by one, and he has his own list in that sense. So maybe Anastasia needs to get eliminated for this story too, so that we can have one character with a hit list, and he's gonna be like, okay, Isabelle and Jade, I don't care who of you goes first, but you're both going down. Beam bam boom for Ivy, for Tristan, for Benji. And there you go. That is all the pitches I have for the current characters still left in the race. I am really curious if any of these are going to work, because as I've said, I know a couple of characters that are no longer in, but I have no clue how the characters that are still in got this far. So that's all going to be news for me, and we're going to explore that in the future reaction videos. But I just wanted to share my 2 cents on how I think this could go down, and what would be fun directions to take each character in should they decide that they will be the main character to win this show. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Who do you think is going to win Disventure Camp Season 4, and what is your idea on how they're going to get there? Please leave a little description, share your thoughts in the comments like others, so that we can get the best stories to the top, and let's see what kind of creative things you can cook up. It is the 1st of the month, which means it is shoutout time for every single silly subscriber, regardless of the level. Thank you so much for your support. K Dogbro, Mea Edit Stuff, Eve, Jamie, Gunkle Nick, Mr. Hongo, Camp Sport Media, Yu Nishinoya Protective Squad, Swayam Naidu, Trap, Thomas Meyer, Lolos, Peter Geit, Twilight X Syndrome, Justice Cheese Place, Kaden Loves Langa XX, Skull 866, Tornado Chris 07, Valkyrvinium, Jacobo Stars, Mindpro PL, Forest Finders, Richard Jr., Jaden Nelson, Rift, Damenia DJ, Gustavo Castro, Keep, Star Wars Timpan, Caramel, Noah Loves DC Season 4, Lily Rose 55, Puppy Chan, Ethan Rivers, Drago Nugget, Creeper XOX, Arcadia Salvatierra Del Vecchio, Nathaniel B72, The Name is Chubby, Just X, No Name, Neil Plus, and Javi Koopa for your continuous support on the Silly Billy channel. Thank you so much. If you would like to become a member yourself as well, if you would like to get these periodically shoutouts, if you would like to get member badges, emotes, all that other cool stuff, and a very happy duck in the form of myself, please make sure to become a member of the channel. If you only want that last part though, just consider subscribing to the channel. We're getting close to 21,000 subscribers. Oh my god, that's a lot of people. And I would love you to become a part of this as well, because I'm having a lot of fun with Season 4. I'm getting a lot of energy to make stuff about this show again. All-Stars is kind of sad down a little bit, but that's fine. We don't talk about All-Stars. We will. We will talk about All-Stars, believe you me. It's gonna be the biggest video on my channel, probably. But for now, I thank you for watching. This has been Silly Billy, and remember, the true winner of this Disventure Camp is the character you would want to win the most. Howdy!